All right, this is the Dvar Malchut. I gave this class, but I forgot to record it. So I'm recording it again. So we'll do a little bit less today than, than the regular class. Okay. So the Rebbe explained the importance of the date that Moses was born. The fact that Moses was born was an earth-shaking event. A human being that could connect to the essence of God, and the essence of God is the Torah. And Moses, who would think of a thing like that? So Moses, the very fact that Moses was born, that such a person could be born, is an earth-shaking event. Therefore, Haman, who had the power to destroy all of the Jews had all eaten from the meal of Achashverosh, which the meal of Achashverosh was to celebrate the fact that the 70 years of exile, which were predicted by the Jewish prophets, had ended, and nevertheless the temple had not been built. So this was a sign that God had abandoned the Jewish people, and that Achashverosh now felt he could rule the world uncontested, and he made a big meal, and the Jewish people believed him. They thought, not, we shouldn't take any chances. Let's eat in the meal. So they participated in the meal, and because of that came this tremendous decree that Haman had the ability to destroy all the Jews. And he said, I'm not going to destroy all the Jews according to my logic. The Jews always seem to get out of these decrees. I'm going to throw myself on to God. I'll throw lots. Whatever the lots come out, then that's going to be the day and the year and the month that I killed the Jews. And it came out of the month of Adar, and he was very happy because the month of Adar had nothing good in it. And it was the month that Moses died. And he knew Jewish history, he knew Jewish Kabbalah, he knew all the whole business. According to the Chassidut, that's why he built the scaffold to hang Moses, to hang Mordechai on. He built it 50 amas, which that corresponds to the 50 levels of bina, of understanding. He was a Kabbalistic guy, and he knew all this. And so therefore, he said the month of Adar has nothing good in it. He knew everything. Somehow or other, he did not know that the month of Adar, Moses was born. Moses was born on the 7th day of Adar. And the fact that Moses was born on the 7th day of Adar, which he didn't know, that transformed the whole entire thing. Suddenly, Adar became, instead of the month of the destruction of the Jews, it became the happiest month of the year for the Jews. And the Rebbe points out that, to this very day, and that it points out that Adar is the letters Aleph, Dar. Aleph is the oneness of God, Aleph, and Dar is to dwell. The oneness of God will dwell in the world. That's the number 7, and the number 7 is the 7th day of creation. So that the very birth of Moses, the fact that Moses was the one that would bring the Torah into the world, to the Jewish people, that's the hope for the whole world. Because the purpose of Judaism is to improve the world, to make the world a perfect place. And again, what happens when the world is a perfect place? It's something like a person that's blind and deaf. And you cure that person from being, you can get along. A person that's blind and deaf can get along in the world. You can get along, right? There was Helen Keller, they have Braille and things. You can get along in the world. But if I take away the person's blindness and you take away the person's deafness, all of a sudden the person can see things. He can see colors. He can see people. You can see his family. You can see his children. You can see his parents. You can see a sunset. You can read books. You can see, right? See amazing things, beautiful things. You can draw pictures. You can hear music. You can hear people talk. You can hear the wind. You can hear the birds chirping. You can hear, all of a sudden, whole new worlds open up. The same thing is now. The world is deaf and blind. They don't see what God is. They don't hear what God is. And therefore, there come all these weird, I say, the visions and the imaginations come into the world, hatred and depression and aggression and lust and avarice and cheating and lying. All these crazy things happen in the world. Famine and disease. As soon as God is revealed in the world, all the bad things will go away. All the bad things. The world can get along very well without addictions, without war. It can get along very well without war. Huh? Be wonderful. What's the world going to do without war, without addictions? What's it going to do? What's the pharmaceutical companies going to do without these things? Don't worry. The world will get along very, very well without it. So they'll have a few $1 billion less, and the world will have a few $1 billion more, $1 trillion, whatever. So that's just removing the bad. What happens when we reveal the good? It's almost like trying to explain to a blind and deaf person what is color and what is sound. They don't understand. The same thing as we don't understand what is godliness, how good it is, how wonderful it is. It's a whole new dimension of reality will be revealed in this physical world. Alder says similarly regarding when the Jewish people, it says that their mazal, the essence of the Jewish people, is revealed, that this is revealed, connected to the seventh day of Adar. The seventh day of Adar. The seventh day of Adar. The mazal, which we said the mazal means the essence of the Jewish soul. In the month of Adar, when it says the month of Adar, it says that the mazal, the essence of the Jewish soul, has more power to it. It's bari, is not only relevant to the source of the soul as it is above, but it's also mainly drawing down this ray of godliness, that it should be in this physical world, that it should be in the physical body. And that's the idea of mazal. The word mazal means, like they say, good luck. But the word mazal comes from the language of nozel, to drip down. The godliness is so powerful, it can't come down at one time, so it drips down. This is the source, a source to be dripping down godliness and life and health in the physical world. Ubemele, the mazal of the Jewish people, means that the goodness and godliness and blessing drips down to the whole world. So therefore, the strengthening of the mazal of the Jewish people in the month of Adar, this brings about a strengthening of all of the Jewish people below, souls and bodies, and also working not only in Torah and the commandments, but working in the world, like it's stressed in the seventh day of Adar, that ends at the seventh day of creation, to make a dwelling place for God in this world, the Aleph, in the seventh day of creation. So again, to stress over and over again, what God wants is to be revealed here. Every detail of this world is tremendously important to God. And God wants to be revealed, but it all depends on us to do it. That's the story of the creation. God made a creation, put man in it to make the world more holy. Even though that the mazal, this refers to the essence of the soul. And we said that the ayin, there is no mazal to the Jewish people. It says no ayin, the infiniteness of God, which is called ayin, ein sof. It can't be understood. And that's the mazal of the Jewish people. That's the idea of the strength and the power of the Jews' self-sacrifice, which is above understanding. But this is not the way of self-sacrifice going out of the world. Like the Jewish people have been murdered for the sake of Judaism, like the Jews were willing to do in Purim. They were willing to give their lives rather than say, I'm not a Jew. The decree of Haman was to kill and destroy all of the Jews. And the Jews quickly realized that there's a loophole. If I just say I'm not Jewish, they can get out of it. Not one Jew even thought to say it. They were willing to die. They realized that Judaism is more real and important than life itself. That type of self-sacrifice is present in every Jew, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about self-sacrifice in a way that it strengthens the desire of the Jewish people to be in the world, to do what God wants in the world. Not to make yourself closer to God, but make God closer to the world. Not to please yourself, but to please the Creator. That's what God wants, to be in the world. Like it says in the Gemara, Mandit Leidina, a person that happens to have a court case with a non-Jew, you should try to push it off to Adar. Why? Because we see that the fact of Adar, it affects not just the spiritual things of the Jews, but even physical things, even matters of court cases with a non-Jew. This is also stressed at what happened in the days of Purim. That the miracle of Purim was that the decree of Haman was negated, and the Jews did not have to give their lives for Judaism. They didn't have to be. They didn't have to die. Exactly the opposite. It was the opposite. That they became happier. That the Jews ruled over their enemies, because the fear of the Jews came over their enemies. The whole world was willing to kill the Jews. All of a sudden, it came in the opposite. Instead of the Jews being afraid of them, the whole world was afraid of the Jews. B'meila, so therefore, and what did the Jews want? The Jews didn't want to kill them. They wanted to kill the Jews, right? And the Jews they weren't afraid. The Jews weren't afraid. Now it came, the Jews wanted to benefit them, and they became afraid. What did they become afraid of? That they would have to lose their murderous nature. They would have to go out of their desire to kill and to destroy. The desire which is present in the world if the world does not receive from the Jews. So it says the fear of the Jews fell on them. So automatically they was able to do Torah and the commandments in an open way. And not only that, the whole world was better. The world, instead of working at sharpening their swords and practicing in the archery to kill people, they could use it for productive things. How do they beat their swords into plowshares? Instead of talking about today, when that day comes, I'm going to kill 10 Jews. I'm going to kill 100 Jews. I'm going to kill 1,000 Jews. I'm going to kill it. Instead of thinking about that, they think I'm going to make 100 fields grow wheat. I'm going to make 100 fields grow trees. They'll be productive instead of destructive. And that's what's called Ora v'simcha v'sasam v'yakor. It says the Jews had light and joy and happiness and glory. It says that it means that they had Yom Tov. Simcha is Yom Tov. It made a holiday. And there's a holiday in all of the 126 countries of the king. That was Mordechai Yehudi. He became the vice president of the world. He became the assistant of Achashverosh. Aval, but nevertheless, the miracle of Purim, which happened in the month of Adar, this was only temporary, and it wasn't complete. We are still servants of Achashverosh. Even though Achashverosh is a nice guy, he's a nice person, right? And he helped the Jews, but that's not, we're supposed to be under Moshiach only alone. I know, Shagam, after the redemption of Purim, nevertheless, the Jewish people are still in exile. And not only that, but after the miracle of Purim, there was the destruction of the second temple. And now we're in the 2,000 years of exile that happened afterwards. And there are all the terrible decrees and expulsions and holocausts that happened, the pogroms and everything. God forbid, should not be anymore. It says, Lo takum b'payim tzara, there should not be, the Rebbe said there won't be any more holocausts. You don't have to worry. Shahayu, there were, but think about what was in the past generations. That was enough. Tens of thousands of Jews, hundreds of them, millions of Jews gave their soul, gave their lives to sanctify God's name. Right? Even in the Holocaust, Jews were killed only because they were Jews. Only because they were Jews. Only because they're God's people. And they didn't do anything wrong. They hunted out Jews in forests and everything. The Jews, old ladies, that they couldn't possibly harm anybody, right? But they were Jewish. Being Jewish, that was the biggest enemy of the Nazis. You're a representative of God in the world, that the world can be a good place. Oh, Beta. No more murder, no more thievery, no more lust, no more destruction, no more depression, no more depression. What do all the pharmaceutical companies do? There's no more depression, no more diseases. Now we're in a situation of exile. The only way that we can survive is by attaching ourselves to the essence of our soul. The world is bad, but in essence, it must be good. Somehow or other, there's a good point. At least, in any case, they're not going to conquer me. Mesirut nefesh be'echad. Something good is inside of it. That's what's called the self-sacrifice for the oneness of God, namely connecting yourself with the oneness of God above the world. Don't pay attention to the world. That's what you have to do in exile. But at the same time, the Rebbe is saying that you have to correct the world. The world is not just to be ignored. The bad things in the world are to be ignored. But we have to transform, look into the world and find the good in the world. Like I had a good friend, Moses Schneerson. He used to have a bee. His son's making now honey. He was honey. He had all these what are called the bee hives. They used to make honey, and he said, "I learned you have to be like a bee and not like a fly." He says a bee, if you put him in a field of manure, he'll find a flower, and a fly, if you put him in a field of flowers, he'll find manure. In other words, even though this world is a world that's a manure world, to use nice language, but there's always something good inside of it that can be utilized. And eventually manure makes things grow. So that's the job of the Jewish people, is to find something good, ignore the bad, find something good, and use that to transform the bad to good. But unfortunately, there's a lot of bad now. We're still servants of Achashverosh now. That's why we don't say Hallel in Purim. The main revelation of godliness in the world will be only when the third temple is built. Like it says, Mikdash Hashem Konanu Edecha, it says the holy temple God will make. The first two temples were made by man, so they were destroyed. But the third temple will be made by God himself. Mikdash Hashem Konanu Edecha, it's part of the song that the Jewish people sang when they went over the sea. And that's going to be in the third redemption, right? We're redeemed from Egypt, we're redeemed from Babylon, and now we're going to be redeemed from Edom, it says, from Edom, from Rome, it says. It's part of the prophecy of Hosea. Bayit Nitzchi, an eternal house, the Geula Mitit Vashlema, a Geula, eternal redemption, that there's no exile after it. That's going to be not in the month of Adar. As good as the month of Adar is, it's the month when we're still in exile. It's still in exile. The true redemption is going to come in the month of Nisan. That's the month afterwards. In Nisan, we were redeemed, and in the future, we will be redeemed in the month of Nisan. Like it says, the miracles that we saw when we left Egypt in Nisan, back then 3,300 and what it is, 39 years ago, those were something like the miracles we will see in the future in the month of Nisan this year, God willing, when in the Nisan back then also the Mishkan was set up, and in the Mishkan, in the third temple will also be set up in the third temple in the month of Nisan. So we have what to look forward to, a beautiful, promising future, and it all depends on us. Have a good day with Moshiach now.